Hey everyone, my name's Amanda and I'm the Fun Size Reader, and today I'm here to talk to you about A Fire in the Flesh by Jennifer L. Armentrout. Well, I finished it. Took me forever, but I finished it. Remember, y'all, I am honest about my feelings. I'm gonna just state that in the beginning of this video. I will tell you what I think about things. I have a list. I had a running note as I read this book of all the things that I needed to make sure I said in this video. But before we get to that, let's just do some housekeeping stuff. A Fire in the Flesh is book 3 in the Nyktos series. I think it's the Flesh and Fire series. I don't even know what they're called. I hate the titles of these books. That's one of the things that I will openly and honestly say. I can't stand the titles. They all seem the same. I don't remember any of them. So this is just, it's book 3. If you haven't read book 2 or book 1 for that matter, this video, even just talking about the description, will have spoilers in it. And pretty much my opinion will have lots of spoilers. So I'm just warning you going into this video, it's going to be full of spoilers because I have to say why I feel certain ways about certain things that happen. You've been warned. This book picks up right where the last book left off, where Sarah is basically being brought to Colis and essentially was taken to him after the battle in the Shadowlands. Colis believes that she is the reincarnation of his lost love, and Nyktos has to try to get her back. I guess is a good summary, maybe? I don't know. Definitely a light summary for what happens in the book. If you have been following the series, you know that this was originally planned for 3 books. Book 3 was supposed to be the last one. From Blood and Ash had more books planned. They kind of intertwined towards the end. Book 3 was supposed to be the end. Not that long ago, Jennifer L. Armentrout came out and said, guess what? There's going to be a book 4. I do not agree with this decision, especially after reading this. Star rating. Let's just do star and spice rating and get that shit out of the way. Star rating. My heart told me to give this book a 2. I gave this book 2 stars. Y'all, I rated the first 2 books in this series 5 stars. I love Nyktos. I thought that this series was so much different than the From Blood and Ash series. It was written differently. It was so much plot. It was so much emotion. Fucking loved it. And book 3, for me, is a 2. Spice rating is a high 3, very high 3. I couldn't give it a 4, and Spice was, I don't want to say Spice was not the plot, but like I'm getting a little frustrated with how prevalent Spice is in JLA's books in an unnecessary way. I have said for years that I do not like necessarily when you have a plot-heavy book or series where spice is thrown in just to have spice. I said it loudly for Silver Flames because I thought that book had way too much spice just to have spice. I'm starting to feel that way about what JLA writes. For this book specifically, it was done in a way that I did not like. And I'll go over all of that. But star rating is a 2. Spice rating is a high 3. By my scale standards, did not meet a 4 or a 5. I'm going to have to consult my notes a lot on this one because I took so many notes. Okay. But my biggest thing that I don't need to consult my notes over is I didn't care about 65% of this book. 65% I did not care about. And I hate reading to get through large chunks of books. I do not want to read a book where I'm like trying to get through just so a huge part of it is over, especially 65% of it. If you've been following my channel recently, you know that there is a specific trope that I talked about with a specific huge book release that specifically came out in the first part of November. It is a trope that I hate. I hate reading this trope. And of course, I had to read that one. And then boom, this one comes right behind it. And we have even more separation. I hate the separation trope. And I hated that the characters were separate for 65% 65%. I did not care about anything that happened in that 65%. But more specifically, the first 30%, boring as shit. I was literally messaging my Nyktos fan club group, and I was like, when is this going to get better? Like, when is this going to get better? Because the first 30%, I was like, I had to put it down. I literally put it down to go read Iron Flame and to start reading Christmas books. And then I had to come back to it because I needed to get this video out for you guys. It was just full of question and answer. It was like I was reading a different book. It was not the Nyktos series that I know and love. It was back to Poppy and question answering every single person that she ever comes into contact with in From Blood and Ash. And that is not Sarah. And it drives me crazy. It drove me crazy reading this. It was literally just scene after scene after scene after scene after scene of question and answer. And I was so bored and I hated it. I didn't understand or process or remember anything because I'm just so annoyed that it's, well, not exactly. Well, not really. Well, let me explain. Well, kind of. Well, what? Find a different way to give answers. The first two books, I learned so much about the freaking world building and the world. And we didn't have question and answer scenes like this, especially not 65% of them. So the scenes with Callum and the scenes with Colis were just so repetitive. So repetitive. It was like, you should not be only writing, I wake up, I ask a bunch of questions, I go back to sleep. I wake up, I ask a bunch of questions, I go back to sleep. But the person that you're asking the questions to changes. It's like, no. Being in a gold cage also reminded me way too much of Guild. It's been a long time since I read Guild, but as soon as she said, oh, I'm in a golden cage and I have my space to walk around and rooms, and I was like, Guild? Literally in my notes, I have written the lasagna comment, ridiculous. The glass dildos, ridiculous. There were just so many things that were put into this book that I was like, really? Really? Those things specifically. Then there was another part where it was like the vernacular was not of this time. And I think the quote specifically was, if the shoe fits, lace that bitch up and wear it, or something like that. And I was like, really? It was not the same book, you guys. It was not the same series. And I was so mad. I was like, you extended to a fourth book for this? For this? No! Don't ruin Nyktos. That was one of the things that I loved about this series, was that it wasn't that way. It was plot. It was emotions. It was done so well. And then we have this. I also think there is just starting to be too much smut. There's just, in this series, I just think it was completely uncalled for in this book. I am fine with spicy books. You guys know that. I have a whole spice scale that I rate my books on. But this one, let's talk about the first 65%. The way that there were things written about what was going on in the castle, the scenes of almost on-scene rape. I was really disturbed for all of that first part of the book. I did not like it. I was like, why are we sexualizing all of this so much? Like, this isn't going to make me want to read your books. It made me so uncomfortable. I was trying to read through it as fast as I possibly could, wondering, when Nyktos was going to come back. And then it just was like, the inner monologue of the characters saying that it's wrong is fine. But then to keep having it happen over and over again, and keep throwing in the abuse and yuck. It was just yuck. I didn't like it. And I could not wait for it to be over. Like, I know we threw the dream walking scene in to do the whole their heartmates thing. Like, yeah, okay, we knew that was coming, but obviously where that was placed was just to have a sex scene. But then the scene with her and Colis where she basically was being assaulted, I was like, no, like trying to manipulate it to have that in there by saying that this was her duty, that she knew that she needed to do this. Like, we broke out of that. Sarah broke out of that character in the previous book. Why is she back there? Was it just to have those scenes in there? Was it just to have the commentary and the depictions of the sexual abuse? Like, I'm sorry. The more I talk about it out loud, the more sometimes I feel like I should have given the book a 1. But I know that after 65%, it completely changed. It was back to our old books that we loved, the first 2. I feel like my notes are just like random comments at this point, and they're just things that like I need to say. Okay, so I'm just gonna say the statements, and if I need to elaborate on them, I will elaborate on them. I knew Addie's was on our side. I feel like even though in the last book, he broke our trust, I had a feeling it was for a reason, and I had a feeling that he would come back to our side, which he did, and I was very happy about that. I was not expecting Callum to be Sotoria's brother. Was not expecting that at all. However, I do still want Sarah to kill Callum. And I don't think that that's going to happen in book 4. I think that that's going to happen in the From Blood and Ash series. I still don't know anything about the Revenants or why they're important. Despite all the question fucking answer, I still know nothing. Stop changing names. I do not have any emotions for Ash. Who the fuck is Ash? I do not have any emotions for him. I have emotions for Nyktos. Daddy Nyktos. Not Daddy Ash. Who the fuck is Ash? Every time she said that in the book, I was like, don't care. I don't care because I don't even know who that is. I know it's the same person, guys. Okay, I know it's the same person. But I'm saying we've built this emotional connection to Nyktos for the first 2 books. Then all of a sudden, we're going to change his name. Hawk, Castile, Ash, Nyktos. Why do we need to change the names? I don't get it. Hair ties? Really? If you know, you know. Hair ties. I thought that was so weird. I thought it was weird. On a positive note, once the book switched back in the Shadowlands, and we weren't just with Colis and Callum the whole time, and we were back with Nyktos and the Draken and all of the rest of the characters that we loved. Not all of them, okay? But some of them. I did like the ending, like that part of the book. However, I do not just give books higher ratings because I like the end portion of it. It's a whole book. I'm going to rate the whole thing. I should have been way more emotional when sad things happened at the end of this book. We know how I felt about the last one. My hands were tingling. I was like almost crying or was crying. I can't remember. I should have had that happen at the end of this book. I thought the second that Nyktos brought her to her lake that I was going to be sobbing, but I wasn't. And I don't know if it's because I was just so irritated with the whole beginning of the book and how much time I felt like I wasted to get to this point. It just felt like not meaningful. It just felt like nothing. I did really like when all of the friends that she made in the Shadowlands honored her like she had fallen in battle. That did hit me, was heartfelt, but I didn't cry. I should have cried, but I didn't cry. I didn't cry when they were at the lake and she was saying goodbye. I should have cried, but I didn't cry. This book basically had one important thing that happened, and that was Sarah ascending. And that's it. That was basically the one important thing that happened. And then once that happened, it was an hour and a half. My Kindle timed it. An hour and a half of smut. Like, that's fine, but this just goes back to like, if JLA is only trying to write sex in books, like I want the plot back. Because I loved Nyktos' plot and their relationships and the things that were happening. It was not good enough. It was not good enough. It didn't do Nyktos justice. I made the prediction to my group chat that I think Sarah is pregnant. There were quite a few scenes and reasons why I say that. Sarah kept blaming it on her ascension. Now, remember, I was just pregnant, so like these things stand out to me, okay? She was super fatigued. She was throwing up and nauseous. She, I think, was dizzy at one point when she tried to stand. She couldn't walk upstairs. She made a comment in the very beginning when she was put in the cage about when was her last period. Come on. Come on. Super emotional. She was also super emotional. I don't know why I'm crying. I don't know. Because you're pregnant. And I'm just waiting. I was waiting for that to be like the ending of this book. And it wasn't. But I still predict it. I still think I'm right. I also, after reading this book, do think that one of the other major connections, despite every Q&A that has said, no, this isn't the case, I do think that Poppy is Sartoria reincarnated. I think they made a huge point of pointing out why Sarah didn't look like her and Sarah didn't have red hair. And we know that like Poppy has those things. So I do think that Poppy is Sartoria, who is going to be able to kill Colis. So I think that that's how it was trying to be connected from this book. I was really sad that we didn't get Jadis and we didn't get Reaver and we barely got Nyktos. We barely got Nyktos. We didn't get Ios. We got Bele a little bit, but like, where was everybody that we loved? We got more Vessies than we got of characters that we actually liked. And that was just annoying. I think it was kind of funny that she had to chew her arms off though. That was kind of funny. Well, the raving is over. I'm done raving because I don't like only putting out negative videos. I like saying things that I liked about it. And I did like the ending. Like I said, the one important thing that happened, I was happy that that happened. Obviously, I didn't want Sarah to die and I wanted them to be back together. But I just felt like this book was so disappointing for me. So disappointing because I had such high hopes that this series was not going to do this. It was not going to have these huge chunks that I didn't care about or that just confused me or that was this repetitive scene nature because the first two didn't do it. I can't be the only one that feels this. I can't be. If you needed to know that you were not alone, I'm here for you. If you loved it, I'm so glad you did. I'm so glad. I wanted to. I expected to, but I didn't. Here's to hoping that book 4 ends on a positive note and that I am so happy with book 4 and that maybe we only got this book 3 because of that little part that needed to happen. But then book 4 was long with a bunch of stuff that needed to happen. So she had to add in extra crap. Please let that be the case and let us get a really, really good ending for Nyktos and Sarah. Well, that was a lot. I'm tired now. But if you like reading fantasy and romance, I post videos on my channel weekly. Make sure to click like and subscribe so you are notified when I post my videos. Thanks for listening to me rave. I don't want to hurt anyone's feelings, but just wasn't what I expected. But thanks for talking about Nyktos with me today. Let's hope we get an amazing book 4. And I'll see you guys next time.